Hey guys, welcome to the third episode in how to make armor-piercing pellets. So we're going to start with the Gamo Lethal pellets, the third armor-piercing pellets, the second variation of the armor-piercing pellets, the PBA Gold pellet as usual, and the Gamo Rocket. First up's the PBA Gold pellet. Next is the Gamo Lethal pellet. These pellets work phenomenally well. Gamo hit the money on them, I think. They're a polymer shelled pellet with a steel copper coated front end, and the front end is heavy. Very effective, in my opinion. So you'll notice on the hit here how it kind of blew up. That's a definite sign that it opened up. So this was about 2.5 inches in. The skirt hit and broke basically on impact, and the steel tip went all the way in to the bottom, you can see. It made a very nice entry hole, and the way this shattered, I can tell that the air opened it up some before it hit, and thus created all those broken petals on the front end of it, as you can see right now. Moving on to the older variation, we had a nice little mushroom. The tip did separate on this one too. The reason the skirt is at the bottom there is because when I cut it, it just pushed it down. So that's nothing to do with the ballistics, that's my fault. Deformed very well, separated very well. Went about 1.5 inches in. Right, you could tell the 1/2 inch mark right there. I'll zoom in on it in a second. This here was the tip, we did find it, so held together, worked basically like the other ones did in the other video. This was the PBA Gold pellet. Punched a very nice hole in it. Very impressive with the performance of these. Went about 2.25 inches in. The entry hole was actually quite substantial. This thing hit pretty hard.
Good heavens.
And transferred a lot of its energy very quickly. Very straight hole. And very little deformation of the PBA Gold pellet. You could probably, if you really wanted to, shoot that again. These things are designed to be high velocity pellets. I'm not disappointed one bit in these. They worked very well. Next one up is the Gamo Lethal armor-piercing pellets. These guys work phenomenally well, in my opinion. Decent entry hole. Went very far before it stopped. Again, about 2.5 inches. The skirt itself is a very light polymer, and as you can see here, this copper-coated steel bit at the end here, well, that's what it looks like. So the new variations of the pellets that I made are basically just utilizing the polymer shell and then the steel tip. This here was the Gamo Rocket. Very nice entry from it. It mushroomed out actually very well. So as far as a hunting pellet goes, it's actually pretty decent. It's about 1.25 inches in. Mushroomed fairly violently. And that little broken section down there, that's where I found the steel copper coated tip, the little BB on the front. So very impressive mushrooming on this. Might I add that I'm shooting it from the Gamo Varmint Hunter HP. It's the one with the 1400 feet per second marked on the barrel. So substantially more powerful than the Crossman 2100 I had been previously using. There's the BB right there. So next up we're going to shoot the custom armor-piercing pellets on the block of clay after it had been kneaded quite a bit. So once the clay's gotten warmed up, everything's a lot softer. Same distance as before, except a massive entry right here. That's like ridiculous. As you can see, the permanent cavity on the entrance on that is just ridiculous. Obviously the skirt broke up again as usual. Had to do a bit of digging to find the tip on this one. That's it there. So a solid 4 inches in on the block this time. That's one thing to take into consideration. A lot of people testing on clay blocks, depending on the temperature and how much they had kneaded the clay previously, is going to determine how much trauma occurs to the block. So as you can see here, after I kneaded everything together on a warm day, this thing absolutely destroyed it. Next up is just some random sword that I'm trying to shoot through. You'll notice on the first shot, it actually didn't penetrate it. That was just the angle it was impacting on affected it enough so that it didn't. So the second shot, I just changed up the angle a little more to hit it more square on, and it did indeed penetrate. That's incredibly impressive performance on the pellets end. I'll zoom in here in a second. On the first shot, even though it didn't hit square on, you can still see it took quite a chunk out. Obviously with the second one penetrating, it just shows you how much your angle of impact determines things. That is probably to date the most impressive shot yet. The steel on this is fairly strong. It's about, don't quote me on that, a 1/16 of an inch and a half. Very strong stuff. I made a rudimentary sword way back when. I don't know what it is or what it's from. But like I said, to date, this is probably the strongest thing that the pellet has passed through. I didn't test any of the other pellets up against it because I was certain they wouldn't go through it. And like I said, the first shot struggled to do that, so mind you, this is coming out of a very high pressure air rifle, so without a doubt the other pellets would not have passed. So I just didn't test them all together. After it penetrated, it did not go very far. Lost a lot of its energy doing so, which is really not that surprising, seeing how much it struggled. So as you can see there, completely flattened the steel tip of the nail, which is pretty dang impressive. So the fact that it did penetrate is pretty awesome, but also take into consideration that it actually flattened the tip before it went through. That takes a lot of energy, guys. Right now it's just basically another penetration test. We're shooting at 3 milk jugs here, filled with water. So it went through the first milk jug and into the second one and stopped there. The skirt actually discarded itself even on the first shot. That hole's only about the same diameter as the tip of the nail that went in. Same thing with the exit. Very tiny hole. You can tell that was only done by the nail. And into the second milk jug. That's a lot of water for it to pass through. That's going to slow things down very considerably. A heavier pellet might have done better at this just because it will retain its mass more effectively going through the milk jug. So that's it for today, guys. If you liked the video, be sure to like, throw some comments down below. If you have any questions, I'll get to you as soon as I can. Cheers.